Right, the recording has started. So again, thank you for joining us, and I'll now turn it over to today's presenters.
Bonjour, I'd like to welcome everyone across Turtle Island in a good way. May your heart be full of love, your face feel the sunshine, and the wind be at your back. We're about to have some drumming by Zach Hartliff and Nathaniel Ante from the Bad River community.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'll go first, but then you go, and then I'll start singing. All right? Yeah.
Thank you. It's so wonderful to get started today. And so today's facilitators, I'm Jeri Brunoe, and I am with JBTC and Tribal Law and Policy Institute. And also you've seen me all week as a co-MC.
I'm Lynn Bigboy, Director of Youth Services. So bonjour, Lynn Bigboy, Nindigenous Cause, Medwiashkakwe, Nindigu, Nju Ojibwe Hmong, Mikanak, Nindodem, Maskiizibii Nindunjaba.
Good Saturday. My name is Daryl and I am Project Manager for Jeri Brunoe Training and Consulting. It's good to see you all and be here with you today.
And we also have our young person, Mr. Wyatt.
Bonjour, Wyatt Nellis, Indigenous Cause, Mako Dudam, Maskiizibii Dunjaba. I said, hello, my name is Wyatt Nellis. I am Bear Clan from Bad River, and I'm 14, and I'm a freshman in Ashland High School. And I'm grateful to be here with you today.
And we're happy you're here with us as well, Wyatt. So good to see you. So we want to go ahead and get started. And we're sharing with you a program, We Are Living Arts, that we've been evaluating for the last 5+ years, actually. And it's, the mission statement is, we'll create, heal, and inspire Indigenous and Alaska Native youth through positive peer-to-peer mentoring, cultural integration, and exploration of the arts. And this kind of started out with not only a mentorship, but also building and working with artists that are contemporary to our local cultural artists. And so it's pretty exciting and amazing. And we're going to get to hear Lynn's experience in their community when we had the WALA program, and it was a lot of fun and a lot of good work too. Next slide, please. So the strength-based components, of course, I just shared with, peer-to-peer, our culture, when we're in person, because we've gone virtual now with the program, but when we're in person, the environment is a big important part. We do adventure training. It's very interactive. And of course, the arts and creating, we have different artists. So they get to choose from these different artists. So Lynn, can you share a little bit of some of the components and methods you all used?
Yeah, so one of the things was it really, to increase that interaction and build those relationships. And so when we were talking about setting up this conference, what are really strength-based? We don't really want to look at the deficits within our community, but we really want to focus on those strength-based things. So we really wanted to, embrace the positive, really address self-identity. How can we help those youth that are maybe at different levels and meet them where they're at? And this program, the WALA program, helped a lot for our community. And we talked about it for a long time. And when we were setting it up, we talked with both school personnel, our team, different, community members, elders. So it's a comprehensive approach.
Next slide, please. And so the other amazing thing was that the community chooses the artists and some of the criteria. And so, Lynn, would you like to share also some of the process that you all went through?
Yeah, so the art and artists, we really wanted to decide what the youth were interested in. So I've been in this position for a couple of years, so it's quite new to me. We have a team that have worked in different capacities with youth, but together we're very new as a team. And so we looked at both our strengths, our weaknesses, the youth that we serve, what they're interested in. And that's when we came up with, cultural artists, someone that's contemporary. We wanted somebody that could do art, performing, things like that. We also contacted a local writer, and though we didn't use her for this conference, that identity, we are using her now in the future. So she's doing, we still are utilizing her skills, but because these artists, we had such a good grasp on what our community, what the youth wanted, they all wanted to be with the artists from the program. Next slide.
Next slide.
So for the pre-training, we identified
go ahead.
High school youth. We identified, we have a brand new youth council. And so we wanted those youth to be involved with the peer-to-peer mentoring and take on that role in the community. And so we worked with the school to make sure that they had time off of school. We did have to take attendance, things like that. But it was really important that to provide that leadership, and how to facilitate things, and how does that really look in an online conference compared to something that we would do in person. Did you have some of your experience, Jeri, on that?
Yeah, I think that the ages that we've done in the past too, so we had high school, but we've gone middle school on up, and then we do the pre-training. We like to take the high school pre-training to walk them through what facility is, and kind of increase their leadership skills so that they are taking on what we call their breakout groups, our clans, so that they're leading youth. So it's a very powerful tool that we've used for quite a while.
All right,
Next slide, please.
And so this is some of the quotes. This is one of the pictures we got. And if we would have been thinking ahead, we would have took more pictures, and that's my fault, because it was such an amazing experience. You were in the space, and there was no time for anything else. The rest of the world may have been going on, I guess, but we were there in that space, in that conference. It was amazing. The work that Jeri and Daryl and the youth, where everybody was so engaged in the conference. And so what we heard was the quotes that you see there, and we saw some really good talkings and some really good, with the teachings and the thoughts that came out of the conference.
I'll move to the next slide. And Wyatt, can you share some of your experiences that, because Wyatt he was just amazing through this. So what were some of your experiences through this process and the camp?
I really thought it was cool and awesome to like talk to all the people that I don't really normally talk to, and seeing all them artists. They're pretty cool. There's painters, writers, there's even dancers, and I was in this group too. It was pretty fun. I was with Lynn, my mom. It was fun. So I thought it was pretty cool. Everything went great. I felt active and a part of things in there. And it was kind of funny when we did like little activities like this and that on the cameras.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Awesome. Awesome. Did you find it to be also because it was virtual and we weren't able to be together, and so you did movement, was it kind of awkward being at home, or are you and the youth feeling more comfortable virtually?
It felt a little bit weird on the camera at first, but then just got used to it a little bit, and it was fun.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you, Wyatt. Next slide, please.
And so here's some more quotes by some of the youth. And one of our youth I'd just like to share, she was really withdrawn and had some poor attendance. She was struggling. Her parents have some substance use challenges. So she was living outside of her home, and we had tried to make a little bit of contact with her and provided some different supports for her. And kind of, really had to push a little bit for her to take a healthy risk and join the conference. And when she did, we've seen an amazing improvement. And so she was on, and at first she wouldn't turn on her camera at all. And then she started to turn on her camera, started to engage a little bit more with everyone. And since then, we work with the school, and her grades have gone up. She's been attending school virtually, because we're kind of in a hybrid model here. But the amazing things that came from and the conversations of when she's doing art that come from her, and that how she can express herself in a way that she didn't know how before. And so to see that was absolutely amazing. And to see her progress and to see her really blossoming as a young woman and a future leader of our tribe has been one of the many benefits that we've gotten from having this conference.
Next slide, please.
So through the arts, our goals are really to, heal from some of that historical trauma. And one of the things that our own community has suffered is 3 years prior to our conference, we had an 8th grader killed by our local county sheriff's department. And so it's these group of kids that we're mentoring, and then, their younger siblings, and that we all know. So not only do we have the historical trauma that we all share across Turtle Island, but we also had some real local things and some healing that was continuing to go on. And so it was really at a time that we're grateful to work with Stephanie, and then to have her point us in the direction of Jeri and Daryl, and to really facilitate this kind of event that would help the healing process. Because if you would have seen our community a couple of years ago and before this, we're very having a hard time, and there was a lot of things that were coming out of that. And so I'm not saying that this is the only thing that we're doing, but this was something that definitely has made a change in our community.
And I also would like to add that when Lynn is referring to that this was a TA request through the Tribal Resource Center with Stephanie. So that's how it all began. Next slide, please.
And so part of this was, you know, the transition to virtual settings was really in this year of COVID is, as we've all learned, you know, we've been going through this for a year, and the struggles and the loss that we've all faced was that letting go of those plans and, you know, not trying to make it something that it just couldn't be. So that was the first step, was to let go. And then the second thing was, okay, how can we do it the best way we can? How can we do it in a good way? How can we make sure everyone's safe? And so that's a step that I'm glad that we took. And then the Wi-Fi access we don't have. We're a very rural tribe up in northern Wisconsin, up by Lake Superior. And so the Wi-Fi access is not always the best. So we had to check with individual families, make sure that they had Wi-Fi access, they had the technology available to them. Also, any concerns with the family, we had to get it approved by our tribal council to have any kind of gathering, which it wasn't, it was virtual, but it still needed approval because for almost a year, we were at a stay-at-home measure. The tribe was shut down. The casino was shut down. Our only source of income was shut down, which just opened a few weeks ago. And so we had to take all those things into consideration and make sure that the school was okay, the tribe was okay, our community, our youth. And so we wanted to make sure that we were really taking everyone into consideration and doing it in a good way. Next slide.
And we also had started, this whole planning process had started to be in person. And so it really did push the dates out, and we had to quickly adjust to the virtual world.
It did. It was a quick, it was a pretty quick turnaround and a lot of meetings, but Jeri, if you get to work with Jeri and Daryl and Stephanie, it's the best phone call you'll get all week. It's the best Zoom meeting. So we're lucky in that way.
Thank you. We feel the same.
So, yes. So some of our outcomes, we realized, you know, some of the talents that maybe the youth didn't realize that they had, that they're interested in some things. And then the conversations afterwards about how they're excited to get on, to share with others, how we want to do another one this year, you know, have this an annual event, and eventually we'd hope to do it in person. And then that taking healthy risks, because a lot of times youth are shy, they're not, you know, the self-confidence, especially during COVID, you're not seeing your friends, you're not being able to do those things, that unfamiliarity of new and different. And we really saw the youth step up, and that was amazing to see. And to see parents that were in the room, grandparents that were in the room, like you could see them once in a while in the background, and to be so proud of their youth that were participating. And then that teamwork, you know, teamwork makes the dream work. You can't do anything really with youth by yourself. It takes a team to do that. And so to see the youth, not only the older ones, the younger ones, all work together in groups like Wyatt had shared, that, or not just their friend groups, it was different people. So that was really a wonderful outcome.
And leading up to that, you know, the process for that whole week was that when we broke it down, and we'll share a little bit more about this as we get into some of the planning, is that as we broke it down, it kind of looked like this, where we did our opening And then we broke our peer youth into what we call, be clans or groups or whatever that might be for you all that you'd like to utilize. And then we did like leadership or identity or what the focus might have been. And so we made that very clear to Lynn's program. And then and they identified that. And so that was really important. And then we took that where then they broke out into the artist clans, and they got to choose prior to the artists that they wanted to work with. And they spent an hour with them, and they wound up through that whole week creating with one artist, creating a project. And so at the end, what was nice is that if we were in person, we were going to invite the community to do a showcase of all the young people's art that they had engaged in through the week. Next slide, please.
So some of the sustainability part is that we continued to work in the small groups that we had created, and really the art group, the one that was painting, has continued on weekly. And one of the facilitators of our team, so we had a young team, and this was also some of the training was used for our team to learn how to facilitate, how to host something like this. And so we kind of leveled up, scaffolded up our own team in the process. And one of the things that we're working on now is that we're creating clans, different sculptures of our clan animals. So we have the bears done, a smaller bear and a larger bear actually taking a selfie. And then we have some of our fish are being sculpted right now. And so the youth and that artist, our artist Star Ames is creating a space where we can put those upon a nature walk, we can put those in the school, we can put those at our local college. We have a visitor center on the other side of town, but really to get those things out into the community and to have the youth work on a mural we have a brand new wake house that is being constructed as we speak. And so the youth are going to actually create a mural for that, design it, and then it'll be placed into that wake house. So just some of those projects that have spun off, and we continue to find projects and places for our youth to display some of their work. And in the future, we would like, to showcase some of their things at local craft store shows and things like that when we get out of COVID. But for now, we have a lot of projects right within our community.
And that's the beauty. That's something that we really thought about when we first put, WALA together, was that it was really of starting that process for sustainability in your community, so that even though we have like a different team, a variety of artists we work with, and we didn't mention from a photographer to rap singer, songwriter, artist, muralist. We have a actor. We do dance movement. We collaborate with Dancing Earth, and we utilize their dancers, and we do a lot of movement to comedy. So it's really very open to cultural basketry and utilizing your local artist as well. And that we find that that's really important. Like Lynn had shared, they had a writer that they're continuing to work with. And that's what we'd like to see from this, is that you're using it as a jumping off point to continue your process, to continue to build on your programs using creativity. And we find that creativity is an excellent healing tool that aligns our young people. And when they're creating, they're not thinking about all their problems. They're focused in having some fun. And also the messaging that we've done with the young people has been, especially with the peer-to-peer, is that when they come back from the artist, then we debrief that, we talk about that. We use the Belmont process, which is, what did you see? What did you feel? What did you hear? And which we utilize also in the GONA. but it really helps them to start getting in touch, in contact with what they're feeling. The other really awesome thing about this process that we've seen over the years is that, and with Lynn's group, it was so fun because the youth, like we got to watch them slowly just open up, like she had shared about the young lady. And she wound up, the young lady, so from coming from that place of pain and hurt through creativity, this young lady wound up doing a TikTok video, right? And dancing. And we're like, what? That was mind blowing, because she wouldn't turn her camera on the whole time. So it's just awesome to see how through the arts, because we're very hands-on. And so what we do, and we'll share with you as we get a little bit further into this, is that what that process really looked like logistically. But that whole idea of our youth learning leadership and peer-to-peer, where they're mentoring each other, of course, with our guidance, and then having the opportunity to work with an artist to have a whole different other experience, perspective. And these artists that we work with, just to want to make sure to mention, is that the artists that we're working with are, we've worked with in the past, that we've trained, that they work with youth, and they're all artists that are actually professionals. So the artists that we're working with are actually, like our rap singers, an actual performer, recorded artist. We have people from, and we'll share with you our website, some of our artists that are up there, it's being updated now. But from people like Superman to people that are artists of muralists. And so we really have a nice, contact with our different artists that are doing this work, but they're artists that have clean lives, and artists that are, have worked with youth. And so I take the artists themselves through a training on how to work with our young people, and that the focus, the artwork that happens, is the focus of the theme for here for the camp. We talked about leadership. And so when they're doing the work, it's just not something random. It's more focused to helping them. And that's what helps also as they go in through the sustainable aspect, as they go home now, and we say, connect with your local artists, connect with your traditional artists. And so we heard some of that this week, and I think that's awesome and very exciting. So next slide, please.
So the pre-planning was really to look at our TYP grant, to identify some of the goals we had in our work plan, the objectives of what we wanted to address, the healing trauma, the peer-to-peer, like Jeri mentioned, and using that Belmont model was really best practice for our tribe. And then number 2 was really identify the resources, our local resources, people that could help, programs that could help, and really to get everyone engaged in the process.
Absolutely. And I think that, and that's why the Tribal Resource Center also was the best partnership, and then it jumped off from there. And so we worked out with Lynn. So for instance, if we have 10 artists, Tribal Resource Center can do this part, and then Lynn's tribe picked up the other part. Next slide, please.
So some of the collaborations that we've shared, one of the things too was access to student email. And so that was, kind of something that an obstacle we had to address. And how we did that is that 2 of our team members, myself and Mary Colity, had access to the student emails because of being on the school board. And so then we were able to email the students directly. But that is something that would have to be addressed, because I know a lot of schools, you can't send an email to a student unless you're in that directory. And so that was, and then the artists and anybody that had to send stuff, we would send it to us and then we would send it right directly to the students. But we worked with a lot of different people, the school really to make sure that the students were being collected, that their attendance was being taken. I think that's about it, Jeri.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's great. So next slide, please. And this is identifying the artist, and it had as we shared before, we talked and collaborated with Lynn and what that would look like, and we asked her. We put a kind of a list of different artists. First, we decided on how many artists we can actually bring, right? And we brought how many artists? Lynn, did we actually bring? Was
5, 6,
5.
7. Yeah,
Yeah.
there were several on a couple different days.
And so that's right. And so what we had her do in her recruitment was identify from the youth, um, kind of the what kind of artistry that they're interested in, and that's where we went from. So we put together, or Lynn put together kind of a questionnaire, right, Lynn?
Yeah, we put together a questionnaire about what they were interested in. We shared the bios of all the artists from Jeri. And then we put that out there and had them choose actually between all the artists and to rank them. So it was known to them that they might not get the first choice, but they would get one of their choices. And we would try to keep it to the first choice. And then we just advertised it. We tried to get it out as much as possible into every social media. We snapped, we Facebooked, we tweeted everything to get it out there. And then just getting the posters, we had something because it was COVID. So we had a box set outside of our building that people could drop off those applications. We delivered some, sent them out in snail mail, anything we could do to get the word out, to get as many youth as we could to get into the conference.
And we also talked about in building this through the social media too, that a lot of the art was the biggest draw, wasn't it? Once we put down who some of these artists are or what types of art that they're interested in, was really a really good draw.
Agreed. It was amazing. And 2 of our team members, myself and Mary Colley, got to actually work with Caboose and, got to create our own rap and spit our own tunes. And it was an amazing experience.
It's neat. That's one of our artists is Ron Caboose Wilson, who is lives in Bemidji and Minnesota. I almost said Wisconsin, Minnesota, and he's actually he's doing a song for us, writing a song for We Are Living Arts, and so I'll share a little bit of what the words are. We were hoping to have it produced and ready to share with you guys today, but we'll have it out on the website soon. Next slide, please.
So this was a lot of the planning. We worked and had meetings together to figure out what the agenda, what was going to be, what artists were going to go where, the students, what that looked like for both Jeri, Stephanie, Daryl's end, also from our end as a tribe, as our team. And so one of those things was, thinking about what's best practice in the virtual platform. We had been in the virtual world. This was in November for about 6 months. So we kind of knew a little bit about, the ins and outs of Zoom and different things. And so we kind of put all those things together and really brainstormed it out of what would work best for us and how would we change some of those virtual activities that we've learned through the years in, the things that we do in person to make virtual activities. Daryl was an awesome tech support person, and then the registration and the forms, we had hard copies. We also did some, I'm trying to remember if we did the online copies are that there's a glitch, I think, in that. So we ended up having the hard forms, but then just dropping those off for families, picking them up, having a place that they could be delivered, as I said, outside of our building.
And that was the other wonderful thing about Lynn and her community, Bad River, is that they were very, and I think that's something that's been talked about all week as well, is that connection and relationship built with their community and the young people. And Lynn did an amazing job, because if somebody didn't reach out, they during that time, especially during this time, went out to their homes to make sure they had the supplies and everything that was needed. And that was the other part where, as we're going, that, we had to make sure that we got all of the information, and then all of the kits, which we'll talk about a little bit more. And we also have a question, and thank you. How do you prepare yourself for a virtual presentation or class? And so I see from Caitlin, thank you, Caitlin, for herself, pray for a good experience and to always learn something new. Then I remind myself of my abilities and put a big smile on and begin. And that's really a lot of what we did, Lynn.
Yeah, it was really our team. So our team didn't have a lot of experience hosting a virtual conference, being part of that. And so it was a growing time, and we talked every day, and, put yourself in the right mindset that we're here, to help those youth learn and to facilitate and to do everything in a good way. And we're so blessed to have this team that, as you saw, Nate and Zach, that are amazing drummers, singers. And so they started us off in a good way. And sometimes they'd sing silly songs to get us all laughing if it kind of got too heavy. And, starting it off in a good way, both the opening and the closing, and then during as well, and checking in on each other. And if things got too heavy, if somebody went offline, we were always there to check. The facilitators, the mentors were there to check in. Hey, are you doing okay? Or, did you just leave to go somewhere? So
yeah, and I want to add too, that one of the other things that we're doing now, we just did recently with another group as well, along with this, is that we actually had an altar, and we had medicines on that, and we signed in the altar through a different laptop in the camera, so it was on all the time consistently. You can actually see when somebody would go light the medicine, and that really also helped make a real huge shift as well. And our culture and Lynn's community, it was throughout, and it wasn't it's just intertwined in the whole program as well. Next slide, please.
So we identified through the artists, once the artists were selected, what supplies they would need. We ordered those. Those came in, any toolkits, anything that was needed by the artists, and then the prizes too. So we ordered some sweatshirts for the conference, and then through our tribal funding, through different fundings. And so we then decided, how are we going to get these out? So once we had the artists, what they needed, we had the participants, the youth, and what they were assigned to, then we distributed those things. And so we did prizes every day. We had different things, and made sure that we got those all delivered in a good way, in a timely manner. So they had those for each day of the conference. And then the budget, we looked at the budget a couple different times, I guess. Maybe Jeri, do you want to speak? And from the tribal standpoint, we utilized different funding sources. So we had a couple different grants that could cover different parts of it. So we used that. And then we also asked for some tribal funds to cover some of the other things.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier, through the Tribal Youth Resource Center, once we put a budget together, and we broke everything down for them. Lynn and I and Stephanie worked on this together, and with the guidance of Stephanie, it was what was a Tribal Youth Resource Center able to do, and then from that, whatever was left, and Lynn's community wanted a few more artists, so then they covered those costs that were above and beyond with what Tribal Youth Resource Center was able to do. And it's a big kind of a big deal in the sense that this is normal TAs are, pretty short term. This was 5 days long, and you're looking at and we've discovered different ways of doing this, but this particular with Bad River was 5 days long, and created a life change and a momentum that we went. But when you're putting together and you've got 7 artists, you've got your youth facilitators, you've got your team, your tech team, and everyone behind the scenes, our team was really like a well-oiled machine that we were able to work very well together. But it took a lot of planning. It takes a lot of planning to do a virtual. In fact, we have found, just like I think with the conference, it takes as much, if not more, planning to do something virtual. Would you agree with that, Lynn? I think there's times when we think that, oh, no big deal, we'll just get on for the couple of hours.
No, I think there's a ton more planning that has to be involved, and just really thinking about how we facilitate things still in a meaningful way.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that as we're moving forward with this, the thing that we're looking at is how do we continue that relationship with the Tribal Youth Resource Center, as well as all of your other resources as we're moving forward in this process, because it's quite a few moving parts, but when it works incredibly, as Lynn had shared, and the other thing that we saw is that we've moved it in different ways from we moved it from, like, we did 3 hours a day virtually, each day, the same time. And so it's really what the community is able to do, to where we have one we're working with right now in Alaska, which is going to be 10 days. And they're breaking that up to a weekly process. And so, or 2 days a week. And so it's really how the community also wants to work with the program, and what's going to work best for you. And so this is what we found that worked awesome with Bad River. Next slide, please.
So some of this, the staying connected thing, we talked about how to access the emails for the students. We had a lot of group texts, individually for each team. And then we talked about when we were working with a school, because this conference was during the school day, we had to take attendance. And so we addressed all of those concerns, everything, made sure that was done daily to 2 different schools that the students attended. And then also, it was just making sure, working with Jeri and Daryl. And if you think Jeri's amazing, Daryl is the master of keeping everybody connected, as you've seen, I'm sure, all week long, is that it was really a blessing to be a part of that.
Absolutely. And Daryl, she's going to be sharing with you her magic and what it takes, because tech is a huge part of this and helping things to run smoothly. Next slide, please.
And so this was making sure everybody was familiar with Zoom. They had Zoom downloaded. The schools use different platforms. And so they, Google Classroom is a big thing that they use. The tribe uses GoToMeetings. and also Microsoft Teams. So making sure everybody was familiar with Zoom platform, making sure that people knew how to, unmute themselves, all those different things. And then if we needed to get any, help with the Wi-Fi connection, sometimes, Wi-Fi goes down in rural communities, I guess in everybody communities, we have those Zoom gremlins. So addressing those things and making sure that we had a contingency plan for almost everything. And sometimes kids were, Wyatt can share, he was outside of our building in the car in November with the heat, with the car going, staying on the meeting. So it really took a lot of dedication, but it was amazing.
And Daryl, what were some of the
I think choosing a platform was one of the most important things because there's so many options when choosing a platform. We chose to go with Zoom. That way we were able to host it more as a meeting and not such a webinar, so we could see each other's faces, be more interactive, encourage the youth to turn their cameras on when we were doing activities so that they were getting more comfortable with each other. The community was really great at making sure that the youth had everything they needed, from access to a device even. A lot of them were able to use their school devices, which was really great to be able to log on, and that came with a partnership of letting them come during school hours. Another part that was really important was making sure everybody was comfortable. So that started with the artists and making sure they were comfortable being on Zoom. They knew what was accessible as far as any of the tools that they were going to use, whether it was a whiteboard or video sharing, that they were comfortable. And then working with the youth facilitators that were going to help our youth during the actual conference. So making sure that our facilitators were prepared, that they knew how to use everything, and so that it was that peer-to-peer state, and it wasn't always me or Jeri or Lynn hopping in saying, hey, make sure this, make sure that. It was stuck to that peer-to-peer. So that pre-training was really important. Making sure that everyone knew it was okay to have a background, what was expected of your background, your lighting, your sound, all of those accessibilities is really important as well. You can go to the next slide. And really treating it like it was a in-person meeting. We make sure that we have not just the agenda, but the backdoor agenda as well, that is timed, and everything from who's talking, what the view looks like, are there anything that needs to be shared, all of that stuff into the backdoor agenda, and allotting time for everyone to log in before. I would say, anywhere from an hour to 30 minutes before actually going live. That way everyone is where you can mic check, you can make sure everything's running smoothly. And even though you do that, still anticipate some type of challenges to happen, especially with technology, is having that backup, having a backup tech, having a great thing when Jeri does the training with our youth facilitators is that they're prepared, like, if this person's mic goes out, you're the next one to jump in and help out. Or if we have, somebody's having video trouble, this is the next youth that's backed up to jump in and take over. So that pre-training is really important. And getting to know your tools so that you can make sure you're connecting with your audience. We use the whiteboard, we use the chat, the wheel of names as prizes that you guys have seen throughout the week. To be interactive, we'll shoot over to Kahoot and do a couple of games, or measure, if we have anything on Mentimeter, we'll go over to menti.com. And the first couple of times that we were testing out Kahoot and Mentimeter, we were kind of concerned because it was switching between apps, but now it's become a part of our routine, and the youth absolutely love it. And it's fun, it's interactive, they can see it in real time. And then on breaks, anytime that we had downtime playing music, we made sure to ask our youth what music that they would like to hear. And then we went back and did our research and made sure it was appropriate. And being able to make sure we were teaching to our audience, to the youth, that we weren't playing stuff that we thought was cool, but stuff that they really liked. And so all of those things came into consideration when we were planning. And once we got into it, you can go to the next slide, please. It was assigning roles of who was going to monitor. Because we set it up as a meeting, it is very important to have that extra person who's monitoring, making sure that people are muted, and when whoever's going to talk is prepared to unmute. If you have anybody in the chat, just monitoring that in the chat room. And we're very defined with whose roles were going to be what, who was going to be sharing, who was going to be monitoring, who was going to be keeping time and reminding. All of those things, everybody knew exactly what their roles are, and that helped us continue to keep things moving smoothly. And what to do in case there wasn't any connection. So we always had a backup just in case. Made sure everybody had printed materials if they needed them. And one of the reasons also I just wanted to add that you chose to do Zoom as a meeting setup is because working with the youth, it gave us the opportunity to have an extra room, a couple extra Zoom rooms, so that if there was a time where they needed that time, whether it was with Lynn or maybe even an artist with Jeri, we had extra Zoom rooms that we could move them into so that they could have that one-on-one time with them. Or if two of the youth, were in a session and they needed time, we had those extra rooms to move them in, and we weren't just kind of putting them in a position to speak to everybody or not being able to acknowledge them at all. And so that was really helpful, and that's something we continue to do. Jeri, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I do know we have a question, so I'll in the chat, and then also wanted to add a really important part is practicing breakout rooms and prepping for breakout rooms. So that's what we were able to do with the artist is also through tech is break them out. You don't have to just stay all together the whole time, and it's really very powerful. Also in the chat we have, does Mentimeter work if youth only have one device, and they can still be connected to Zoom and in Mentimeter at the same time?
Yes, so they do, turn their camera off if they're connected to Zoom. It'll automatically just keep the sound on, but they can jump over. We had almost, I would say 90% of our youth are only using one device, and a lot of the times it's a phone. And so they're able to, jump back in between both of them. And that's like the one time they're encouraged not to turn their cameras on. Like, okay, everybody turn your cameras off. We're jumping over to Mentimeter. We're jumping over to Kahoot. And then they're really engaged. On Mentimeter, you can see exactly how many people are logging in and how many answers are being done in real time. So if we have, 132 participants and I only have 122 people, I'm like, okay, where's my other 10? Where's everybody at? And, encouraging them to all be on and to participate, but they definitely can use both while they're on.
Great, thank you. Thank you. I see Project Venture. My hat off to you. And next slide.
So the overview, we're getting to the end here, you guys. We really wanted to be culturally relevant, and that was to our tribe. And so when we were talking about what's important to us, that was really, thinking of our 7 grandfather teachings, creating a virtual safe space for everyone that was participating, and to really help youth with their identity and to help support them in finding their identity. And so, that prevention piece, we think about the things that are in our TYP grant, some of those, talking points, the culture, the art, healing trauma, those things. And so we wanted to address all those things within this conference and to really make sure that we were addressing any obstacles and really creating a good environment and trying to do everything in a really good way and be sincere about those things, so that everyone was feeling good about the whole process, the actual event, and then afterwards. And that was part of, how do we keep this going? So now that we've had this experience, what are we going to do? And some of those art pieces that we're continuing to work on within our community, and then we'll expand those once COVID-19 has subsided and we can go out into further communities and take things into the school and into, you know, different tribes and work with them as well. And so to continually scaffold up those ideas.
Thank you, Lynn. And just add a couple of comments to this as well as we're wrapping here and want to open the floor for questions is some of those little small things like being on camera. So do we record this or do we not record this? And that's completely up to the community. And then also getting permission just to be on camera, and or if there's some photos taken, that you make sure you have those permission slips handled and signed by, you know, the caretaker. I know that there's many previous programs as well that you know, we don't share it in the video because it's protected, and so we always have to keep that in mind when we're talking about the health and wellness of our young people. And it's been it was a dream to work with Lynn and Bad River and Wyatt. And the other thing I'd like to mention is that part of that recruitment is that Wyatt, did you share your role you play in your youth council? Because I think that's another part and collaboration and working and helping build a youth council skills as well that we drew from their youth council to be our youth facilitators. So we'll open this up to you all now for any questions. And we see in the chat that they're thanking you for this experience is valuable. Absolutely. So I wanted to ask also Daryl and Lynn if there's anything else that we, because there's a lot to this, and I know that we really went through this pretty quickly for everyone, and we'll have information for you as well. Is there anything else we'd like to add to?
You were mentioning the caregivers, and I just wanted to add in that one other, like, you know, an extra step that you can take is helping caregivers give, maybe it's just a one pager on how to log in. It's easy to get discouraged when using technology, especially with Zoom. And so being able to give them that login information, or what happens if your, you know, child gets logged out, is really, really helpful. Contact numbers, we always make sure we include not just our emails, but contact numbers, and let the youth know it's okay to text us. You don't have to just call, because sometimes they won't call, but they will text. So that you can text if you have a question or if something's going on, and trying to help troubleshoot for them in that way is always really helpful.
Yes, thank you. And we have some questions. Were the artists all local artists, or were you able to recruit from around the country? We had both. So I actually, through our site, wearelivingarts.com, we have a list of artists that we work with, and they're not all on there, but we utilize them, and they're from all over Indian country. And so it's a very diverse group. And then also we ask the community to also identify some artists that they would like to work with specifically, or even through the traditional art and cultural art. So, and then we have another, which of the art or artists were most popular with the youth? Lynn, which were the most popular with Bad River?
You know, I think they were all really popular. I know the session that we got to do with Ron Caboose Wilson was really popular. Also the dancing with the TikTok, preteens and teens, they really wanted to do that. You know, the painting was a big one too, and that really kickstarted a big project for us within the community. But everybody was, I mean, amazing. Like, we couldn't ask for better artists involved. So Jeri has this huge pool of artists, and you know, we narrowed it down through what our community was looking for, and they were all really popular.
Yes, and Daryl, you want to share too? Also, we've kind of seen that across the board. It depends on the community too, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really depends on the community. We always ask, artists first, are there community artists, and then do some research and get to see what ages we're working with and what's kind of more popular for that age group, and then narrow it down to the artists. And even then, we always have a healthy balance of male and female artists depending on the group. And when we go through to assign, they already tell us this is who my top 3 picks are, and so we do a good job at trying to get them their first pick. Sometimes that doesn't always happen, but and that's because we keep the class sizes manageable too, so that the artist can have that time with each youth, and it's not just them teaching, that there's really that time for interaction with each of the youth that are participating. But yeah, but we work with so many great artists, and it's really, really cool because it opens opportunities for the youth to have a connection after with those artists. Some of our youth can, start taking some of the classes with Dancing Earth. They are open to those, or some of the other classes that some of our artists take, that opportunity arises from this for them.
And I think that's the other beauty in this is even if they're not local and they're a national artist, they also continue a relationship with their community. So we encourage that as well. So like with Lynn, I know that there was some outreach to Ron Caboose Wilson, who also does, he helps the youth write songs and they sing them and they rap them. And spoken word is another really huge one. And so it's a combination. And so that's the beauty as well, that there has been also where we can combine, say we can combine dancers and spoken word and they perform together. And so to also our writers that want to write a script or a story, and we have the artists. So they'll all work individually, and then at the end they'll come together and then they'll perform together. So that's the other beautiful thing, is that we'll have everyone work in their clans or artist clans or peer clans. And then when it comes to the end, we will do a collaboration, or some of the artists might say, we want to work with this group, or the youth might say, we want to work with this group. And then at the end, they'll do a sharing to the community, or virtually. We did the sharing virtually. And if you want to invite the community on the last hour or 2 hours, we encourage that you're engaging the community and the families. So I don't see any other questions at this time, but we will be available, and we're just very grateful to be able to be here. If you have any more questions or you want to contact us, we'll have that information for you in the booklet.
Jeri, one other question just came in. It was, how big do you think is the optimal group for each artist to work with?
Oh, great. Thank you for seeing that. The biggest group, well, okay, so here's the thing with virtual. If it's virtual, on site, we go from 50, around 50 youth to 65, because we have enough young people to help break down the groups into smaller. So 50 to 65. Virtually, though, you can go much larger, but you have to make sure that we break them down into workable groups from around 8 is nice to have, like clans of 8 young people with a youth facilitator and adult, or it's workable for an artist from 8 to, we've gone what, 12, 15, Daryl? So yeah. You want to kind of keep, so we can keep those groups. I'm sorry, go ahead, Daryl.
15 is the most that we've done per artist.
Yeah, 15 per artist. So that's kind of where you want to, that would be the max, because the artist has to prepare, all of their supplies and everything, and be able to give that young person, that one-on-one, if you will, the best that they can virtually. So it's a great question. Thank you. So we appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our presenters for this wonderful workshop. And again, anyone interested in learning more and how you could do this in your community, please contact www.tribalyouthresourcecenter.com. So again, thank you for attending session E1 entitled Creativity and Innovation in the Face of COVID-19. We put the link in your chat box. So if you can take a moment now and click on the link and complete the survey, you taking the time to share with us your thoughts on what other information you would like, how we can enhance this workshop in the future. It helps us as your TA center to serve you in your work with tribal youth. If you've been unable to join a session that you're interested in, a recording will be posted on this platform and will remain up until April 30th. After this time, you may find recordings of all conference sessions on the Tribal Youth Resource Center website, www.tribalyouth.org. And before you leave today after the last session, please, again, because you are the wisdom keepers. We as your TA Center really want to be guided by your needs, your opinions. So please, at the conclusion of this OJJDP Tribal Youth Virtual National Conference, please take a moment to complete the overall evaluation. If you go back in the main lobby, there's a sign that says conference evaluation. Just click on that and then you can complete it before you go for your last walk of the day. Thank you, everyone.